Yeah, I'm not arguing about the value. I think the value is appropriate to carry as an allowance. I'm curious about the process for determining what should be done on each site. And then since the scope is not defined, and then it's allowance, then how that allowance then gets approved for expenditure.
So the contract itself will cover their services as well as their consultants. And so when they do provide us with the exhibits, we're going to obviously review each sub-consultant itself, the value that they're applying towards their services. I mean, we do multiple projects, so we can compare that to other projects that we use the same vendor and or different vendor consultant and what, you know, cost they associated with something of that size and scope as well. But ultimately, we don't know until we're done with like the feasibility study phase, really, if we're going to need to use additional funds or if there's going to be savings within that category itself.
I mean, you're asking about this precise scope. It's not entirely, the MSBA is not entirely clear on it. The fact is, you can have a preliminary site, and we had them in Manchester. It just gets rejected out of hand without ever doing any survey work, without doing any geotech work, because it's, you look at it, you just look at it in Google Map and you know, and do it to scale and and then look at the setbacks and the thing can't fit a school or there's some other obvious constraint.
Right.
So, there isn't, they don't say, oh, you must do a, 1 foot survey of every site you're considering, or you must have 20 borings of every site you're considering. They don't do that. And I think what usually the money ends up ultimately being spent on the more preferred, like,
right. And
so it does get managed usually.
Yeah, and it's just a process question.
Yeah, I think the process is the OPM and the architect tend to manage it.
If that's the answer, then I think that's the answer. Yeah. So that this group isn't involved with saying, hey, I think we ought to go and do geotech here. This should be surveyed. We ought to do a utility survey to figure out what
Jim's group will come back to us and say, guys, we're anxious about the junk soils over here. Maybe we should do more boring.
Right. Yeah, we'll make recommendations. So I found the list on it's environmental permitting, environmental site allowance, soil testing, stormwater, NEPA filing, site surveys, test pit location surveys. There's a traffic study that's in this list that they've asked for, geotech, environmental permitting, hazardous materials, sustainable and green design, hydrogen flow tests, lead registration, and existing plant scans, which were all things, I think most of that was in the RFS, I believe, because it's all pretty prescriptive from MSBA. These are the things you need to get. So that's the list. And Charlie's exactly right. And we're likely not going to spend, I doubt we'll do any of these except on the site that rises to the top as the preferred site.
And that's what I'm driving at. Who's making the decision of when to say, like, all right, we need to go to test pits. Let's go survey those. We're going to wetland flag this site. We're going to do a utility survey. We're going to do it for this site, but not this site.
We will.
When does that happen?
Yeah, we won't be bringing those. We'll be informing you.
Yeah.
But those would really be part of our normal services. In a lot of other places, other non-MSBA, this would just be part of our base contract. And we would be doing it as part of the base contract. So we'll be getting a lump sum number from each of these based on likely doing one site. On things like geotech, that'll be based on a not an hourly basis, but they'll give us a basis for how many borings we want or what kind of testing we want. We'll get pricing that way. Typically, it's the conversation with the OPM and the architect informing you that we believe this is the testing that's appropriate and it's within the scope. And I think as long as it's within, because these numbers that we're getting from the consultants will be attached to the contract before it's signed. So you'll see the actual number that's being carried from environmental planning. And we need to do everything. We really need to do everything for the MSBA within these numbers, whatever that is. And typically it's 1 to 2 sites. Typically. I wish I could give you a better answer, but it's a little until we get into the process, we don't actually know what we need to do, but we do know that this ends up being a lump sum number. And the only reason to move money from outside of it for any of these categories would be if we came across something extraordinary, which I can't tell you what that is because it would be completely out of left field. We would know,
like an archaeologist or something.
And I guess if we found a burial, dinosaur bones or something, you know.
So is it a lump sum or is it an allowance that can get rolled over?
So we can, it's your $1.5 million
No, I'm
appropriation.
talking about the 300,000.
Yeah.
It's called reimbursable expenses / allowances in the MSBA contract.
Okay.
That's just what they label it, but it is, if it's not spent, it can be absorbed pretty much anywhere.
Correct.
Right, so it's not spent, it comes back, or it just never gets billed. The
Correct.
contract gets
Yeah.
amended to reflect savings or an overage, depending on if we spend
Yeah,
over, then we
you
gotta.
have to report, obviously, every month, you're gonna get an invoice from us, it's gonna be detailed, the OPM's gonna
Sure.
review it, you'll see where we are
Mhm.
on all of these, and if it looks like we're in a problem, we'll have that conversation, but you'll be seeing every month, you'll be seeing where these are. Some of this is just the way MSBA sets up their contracts, and I wouldn't normally call these reimbursable expenses, that's typically not what the standard AIA contract would call a lot of these, but that's what they call it. They also call them allowances, why I don't. It's a little different than the way a normal allowance would work on a project.
Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the Dora Whittier invoice number 3 for $22,921.50? The JCJ contract for $900,000 with the breakdown to the right, on that slide. And then the budget revision request, number 1.
Correct.
A single motion or?
That's
three
one
different
motion,
motions?
Yep, that's one motion.
Seconded,
And we're gonna do roll call and you're gonna start.
Gerard, yes.
Charlie, yes.
Annie, yes.
Kim, yes. And yes. Michelle, yes.
To the,
Yes.
sorry. Okay. Okay, who do I see? Ariel,
Yes.
Dave. Tyler,
Yes.
Tyler, yes, right? That's how you
Yes.
wanted. Tyler, yes, you have to say your name.
Verdon, yes.
Okay, can you switch down so I can see? Sorry, I just can't see.
Jen.
Jen,
I say, Annie, I'm here. It's Jen. Yes.
Gordon,
Yes.
Gordon, yes, right?
Yes.
Lisa,
She's not voting on that.
okay, Lisa, we love your opinion too. Okay, it passed. Thank you. Okay, let's talk about JCJ. Getting the band back together, huh?
Yeah, we are.
This is great.
Fantastic. Sure.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about yourselves, or do you want us to tell you also about some new people that you might not know? What do you want to do first?
Whatever you would like, and we probably have more slides than you need to see, but we didn't know what to bring, so we
Okay.
can do as much or as little as you want. We did bring the org chart, though, just to give you a sense, and we can introduce ourselves, and then we have some new people on our team as well that
Yeah.
you did not.
So why don't you tell us about your team, and then we'll do a quick
All right.
run around the
Yeah,
table.
great.
Okay?
Well, first, thank you all. We could not appreciate more being back, to do to work on this school. We've been talking about it since we did Memorial, so very excited to be able to finish the job. I'm Jim LaPasta, and I'm the principal in charge of the project, and we'll be working pretty closely with you all the way through. We hope there'll be some familiar faces and some not so familiar. We'll let the folks here introduce themselves, and then I'll mention the couple that couldn't make it tonight.
I'm Jeff Elliott. I'm an associate design principal with JCJ. I'm registered architect. My specialty is K-12 design. So my role is the lead designer.
I'm Emily Zarnecki. You may remember me formerly from the Memorial School project. Very excited to be back and working on the Essex Elementary School project. I'm the interior designer for the project. And we do have another staff member who will be assisting me with interior design, but I will be your lead designer and part of all the presentations.
And hi, everybody. I'm Mike Frollo, principal at MLP Integrated Design and my Learning Place Integrated Design. I'm the educational planner on the team. In my former life, I taught mostly middle school and a bit of elementary and a bit of high school for about 20 years. I spent most of my career actually on the North Shore teaching, mostly in Newburyport at the Knox Middle School and in those schools. Very excited to be a part of this process with you. I actually formerly worked at Durham Whittier. When I stepped out of the classroom, I went and interned, was teaching and interning at Durham Whittier randomly because they were right down the street from the school. And worked there for a few years. And then a few years ago, I started my own consulting business. So not only do I work with architects and districts doing school design projects, but I also do professional development all over New England as well.
So a couple of other folks, our project manager, Fawn Pellegrini, comes back from vacation tomorrow. She postponed her vacation for the interview. And so really, and she offered to postpone it for this first meeting, but we really felt she needed to get her week on the cake with her family because she's been putting that off. So Fawn will be back. You'll meet Fawn at a future date, but Fawn will be the day-to-day contact for Durham Whittier, and you'll be meeting her and you're going to love her. She's terrific, has a lot of experience in school design. She's also, I mean, we've all worked together 20 plus years or something like that, and Fawn's been part of that. So we have a team that's worked together on a lot of school projects for a long time. And I think you really like Fawn. Dustin Lombardi, who many of you may remember is our project architect from Memorial, is back also. And we'll hopefully shortly be up here beginning to do the existing conditions analysis. We need to get all of that underway as quickly as we can. And we'll be seeing Dustin. And then periodically, and those of you who are on the interview met Eric. Eric's in our Boston office. He directs sustainability nationally, and he'll be working with us in the sustainable design. So you may periodically see him at meetings or on Zoom to present that sustainable design issues. That's our core team. And I'm not going to go through all the consultants, but you'll have this. I'm going to be meeting with different consultants as needed. Okay, over to you.
Great, so, Andy, want to start? We'll just.
Sure, Andy Oldman, so good to see you guys, those that I recognize. And so I'm a Manchester resident and also a member of the FinCom.
Michelle Cresta, the Director of Finance for the district.
Handle Superintendent, welcome back.
Kim Provo, new face to you. I'm principal here at Essex Elementary. I was a teacher at Memorial at the very, very, very beginning of the building project over there before going to the middle school for quite a few years, and that's my second year here, so that is what me.
Annie Kim, Essex.
Charlie A. Essex.
Mike Gerhart, Essex resident.
And do you want to go to the board? Ariel, you want to start?
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't be there in person to meet you guys. Ariel Brain, Essex resident. I have two kids in school, one in 5th grade and one in 6th grade this year. And I'm a principal at CVT Architects in Boston. Thank you.
Ed?
Hi there. I'm a Manchester resident. I'm new to this committee, but my girls my youngest just graduated from Manchester Elementary, so I was following you guys all throughout the entire school design and construction process when my kids were there, which is a beautiful building. I'm a principal at SV Design in Beverly, an architectural firm.
Gordon?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, good. I just switched earphones. Well, you guys all know me. I'm not new to you, and certainly not new to the selection process, so I'll leave it at that.
Henry?
Hi, Henry Ottinger. I'm a Manchester resident. 15 years teaching experience, mostly at middle school level, math and science, and I'm also on the Conservation Commission in Manchester.
Lisa?
Hi, Lisa O'Donnell. I'm Essex resident. I served on the Memorial School Committee, former selectman, current chair of the planning board.
Christina, we see you. Dave? Dave, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi there.
Dave's an Essex resident?
Yes, Essex resident, plumbing and gas inspector for the town of Manchester, and self-employed plumbing and heating contractor.
Also on the fire department?
Yes, deputy chief, yep.
Yep. Is that it, Christina?
That's it.
Great. So that's the team.
All right.
On this side of the table.
Oh, Tyler, I'm sorry.
Oh, Tyler.
Tyler.
Last but not least, Tyler Burton, Essex resident. I was on the Memorial SBC. Good to be back with you.
So do you want us to go through some slides? Or
Yeah.
I don't know if, okay, I didn't know if everybody had seen our presentation. So we cut it way, way down, took out a lot of the project management stuff and focused mostly on some of the design imagery and just some early thoughts to share where we were, and then we'll get started. We'll throw it all away and we'll get started afresh.
So these are ideas and
We're going to share some thoughts about our approach to school design in general, and then some thoughts about this particular side as well as the memorial, about the options that you had put in the original RFS to understand kind of what some of the possibilities could be. Done, I wouldn't say in a complete vacuum since we knew a fair amount about the district before we interviewed, but certainly done without any conversation. So these are really just a sense of give you a sense of scale and possibility of where we might end up down the road. Likely we'll end up somewhere completely different, which is kind of what happened when we did the memorial project. That's part of the beauty of this. So we started with this slide, which actually was straight out of one of our community meetings, all of our community meetings. We just moved the "You Are Here" from the middle over to Essex, because the last time we used this slide, "You Are Here" was in the middle. Just understanding for us that, reminding ourselves that this project was part of the continuum of projects that started quite a while ago, and now as we have a chance to work with you to complete the cycle. Go to the next slide. We also spent a little bit of time, clearly we were in town when we did the memorial project. We did meetings in this room, we toured the building. But this time, obviously, because it's the Essex Elementary, it was just a question focusing on Essex and what it might mean to do a school in Essex versus Manchester by the Sea, and what might be different. So this was a slide we used just to talk a little bit about what that might look like, what that might mean, whether it's the culture of Essex, the physical characteristics that make it different from Manchester by the Sea. These are all things we'll want to talk about and understand at a much deeper level, but it was a way for us to really begin to understand the landscape, the idea of the marshes, the river, even some of the architectural vernacular, which is different, right? Maybe more wood, more shingle, smaller scale than some of what you see in Manchester by the Sea. So just understanding for us as we get into it, trying to understand a little bit about what might make an architectural solution feel or look a little different once we're here. So then Emily's.
So one of the really important parts of this next step is the visioning and really understanding what the guiding principles are going to be. That's going to be a big part of what Mike talks about, and we'll be all part of that. But we've already heard certain terms and certain elements that seem to be very important to the district and to Essex. So each of these slides kind of represents some imagery around those topics. Of course, one of them is about supporting adaptability, because we know that these school buildings need to change and adapt as curriculum changes, as programs change, just all the different functions that are happening, also bringing in the community. And so, we'll be sharing some images from some of our projects and other projects just to talk about different ways. And some of that could be through furnishings, just having multi-use spaces, which is really important, and how that gets designed into the new school. Next slide. We also heard how important having equity for all elementary school students. So now that you have a new memorial school, we need to bring those same amenities to the students in the Essex. And so, having spaces that support all students of various abilities, meeting social and emotional needs, and just having spaces that support the students as well as the community as well will be really important and something to talk through. Next slide. And again, going back to the community, it's about the school community, but also the overall community, and having those spaces that can support and change. So for a space that might, be a dining commons one day, at night becomes a place for an art show. So just designing those different spaces inside as well as outside of the building. And then as Jim was mentioning about the culture and integrating that into the building, we've done this for a variety of projects throughout the country, whether it's Native American schools, it's schools in the Northeast. We really dive into what is important to the school, to the community, and really bring that into the building. And it could be through color, pattern, texture, it could be through imagery, sensory walks, just integrating that design into the building really makes it truly an Essex school. Next slide. And then, of course, you know, we know sustainability is important, but that also really drives the health and wellness of the students and the staff and people who use the building every day. So whether it's bringing a lot of natural daylight in, using healthy materials, connecting students to the outdoors, we'll talk through all of these different ideas and how to create a healthy and happy place for the students, somewhere they want to be and that they're comfortable in each day. And I'll hand it over to Jeff to talk about his initial design ideas.
Sure. So we're gonna have to explore a lot of different options. There's 3 grade configurations, and then there's also a requirement from the MSBA to do a code upgrade in place, an add reno, and a new scheme, at least one of each of those. So this is the existing building. It's a little weird sitting in it, giving this presentation now. But yeah, this is what you have. There's some site constraints with the wetlands and the pond. So we'll have to work through how much buildable area is left when we accommodate for those setbacks. The Eagles Nest replacement playground. We understand the soccer field has some drainage issues, so there's all those concerns. The site circulation is interesting in that you're making it work for a school, but there are some challenges, like the bus is discharging on the wrong side, or we prefer it the other way around. So that'll be a topic of conversation as well, as how to make the site as efficient and safe as possible. Next slide. So as a test fit for an addition scheme, one thing we were looking at is what if you added a full-size gymnasium adjacent to the existing gym? And enough classrooms, maybe 2 pre-K, 2 kindergartens. That would give you 4 classroom spaces that you can then swing out of the existing building and start to do targeted renovation through. Also creating a new full-size gym and stage would then let you backfill some program in the existing space. So for example, if this space remains the cafeteria, you can demolish the stage and expand your seating capabilities. So by building the biggest, most unique spaces that are hard to create in the existing building, then you can give program enhancements elsewhere to use your pick and figure spaces. Next, please. Also, as part of the scope is a consolidation at Manchester Memorial. And for those that with the project, you know it better than I do at this point, but there are a lot of constraints there between the flood basins, the structured infiltration system, the wetland setbacks. We know the tennis courts are a beloved component of the community. So the next slide.
Some of you may recall we designed the whole school around those tennis courts.
So on the neks slide, we have a thought of maybe how you could start to expand and provide more building area. So maybe adding 2 pre-Ks, so two pre-Ks become 4 pre-Ks, which you originally envisioned there. I hope I'm not bringing trauma back.
Yeah, you are.
It's so easy to add 2 pre-K. It's almost like it was designed for it. There's a potential for a 1 or possibly even 2-story addition off that corridor where adjacent to the gym, so you can have another classroom wing. Of course, then you're bringing more students, more parents, more buses onto the site. Perhaps the tennis courts need to go away to provide parking for the school. So that's one line of thinking that we thought maybe could start a conversation. We'll also have to look at new schemes. So on this site, this one built at the back of the site where the playground is, kind of straddles between the 2 wetlands. There would probably be a wetlands regulatory review process. That's really the disadvantage of this scheme. What we're thinking of is maybe there's a classroom bar, which is in yellow with learning neighborhoods, and then a community wing, which is in blue, connected with at a main entry hub. So then you can use either part of the school and separate them, so it works after hours, community access, et cetera. And then the site could have a bus loop and a parent drop converging at that main entry. So you have a safe, secure, easily supervised, so the main entry can see all this traffic happening in front of the building and you're not bringing people through various doors. Well, as a thought, the next slide, we have what the phasing might look like.
It's a video.
All right, well, here we go. Okay, so the phasing would be very straightforward and simple. Basically, you build the new building and then you occupy it and then you demolish the existing building. It's about as simple as it gets. And then you build the site work. There it is. So very clean.
Done and done.
Very economical because you're building everything all at once.
Right, not at all.
All right, so the next is another option we looked at. If the wetlands becomes a real problem, this is an alternative that builds at the top end of the site. So the same components were shown here, the yellow classroom bar and a blue community hub. And again, the site circulation meets at the middle of the main entry. They're just coming in from different streets. So functionally, it's very similar. The phasing is a little more complex because of the existing building that needs to be remain occupied. So what we do here first is to build the classroom wing.
Now you gotta cut the trees down first.
Cut the trees down. The classroom wing just rises up out of the ground. We demolish a comparable amount of classrooms of the existing building. And we, in the second phase, build the community wing. So now all the new construction is complete. Occupy it, demolish the existing, and then do the site work. So this phasing would be similar to Manchester Memorial. It's just a little more complex. You need some temporary connective elements. But the trade-off is, although the phasing is more complex, the regulatory is probably easier. So there's two different approaches to building on this site.
Say that again.
So the first scheme I showed where you build at the back of the site, you're building within likely wetland setbacks.
No.
So that's a regulatory conversation. This one, you're away from the wetlands, but there's the existing building because someone already built there, right? That's the best place to build.
Yeah.
I don't think Essex has a wetland bylaw, so we're just.
No, it's the state.
It's the
state, yeah.
Wetland bylaw, which is a 100-foot buffer, but it's not a no build.
It's correct. It's not, it may be a relatively simple process. But we weren't quite sure how Essex handles that because there's quite a bit of local flexibility of how they interpret it. We just haven't worked in Essex, so two options. It may be very simple just to build in the back and deal with the regulatory phasing. Would be simpler. Construction might be simpler. We just don't know yet. So, but there are multiple options, which is encouraging.
Which leads to like the environmental side, getting the site survey and the wetlands flagged like almost immediately.
Yeah, we don't know where they are. We're just going off Google Maps, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna need to get that done. And then lastly, we have two slides where we took one of the options and just began to imagine what it might look like and what an expression might be that kind of harkens back to one of the first slides I showed. So if you think about the Memorial Elementary, it had some DNA that came from the middle high school because they shared an extended campus given the bridge. It was representative of Manchester by the Sea, brick, pitched roofs. The two buildings had some design language that were at least inspired by each other, so they felt like they were connected. So then we've asked the question, what if we took the design language and transplanted it and took some DNA in terms of some of the forms, but changed the materials and maybe some of the expression to feel more like Essex for a project that would be on this site. So this is one option where the main entry, classroom wings, maybe windows representing seagrasses and marshland in terms of their appearance. Maybe more grays and woods, shingles, gray brick or gray shingles, but just something that feels perhaps a little different, similar but different, cousins in terms of the building. So they're part of the same district, kind of part of the same DNA, but have a slightly different look to them. And then the last slide is another view, which would show really what the main entry could look like with a couple of smaller pre-K rooms that are reminiscent of the ones at over at Manchester Memorial, but a little bit different with perhaps some different materiality. So again, these are super early renderings just to get some ideas out, begin to give you some things to think about and to share some thoughts about where we may all go. But we've obviously got a lot of work to do, a lot of investigation, a lot of modules to cover for the MSBA as we move forward. We're really excited to be doing this with you and going through it again.
Hey, Jim, this is Gordon. What do you think about the viability of using the existing building like you did in your first scheme? It looks like you saved it. What do you think about the viability of using that building to bring it up to current day standards?
You mean to just
code upgrade?
Just to do the code upgrade?
Code upgrade. I mean, the size of the classrooms. There's so much to be done in the building envelope. Not to mention that either. Well, what do you think about the viability of that?
I actually really don't know yet, Gordon. I mean, I have not seen too many of those options work out for most districts simply because of a lot of it's building envelope issues. By the time you get done looking at the cost and trying to meet the educational program, which would be the key thing. I'm not going to say no because I can't at this point because we don't know. I mean, we're going to do the work and find out. But it doesn't. It hasn't worked out in the past, but it doesn't mean there won't be a first time.
Okay, it was just a general question. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, this building, as we walked around, we did a quick walk around today because not everyone on our team had been here before. The building looks good, which is a good thing because you'll get extra points on your reimbursement for taking care of your building. But it does make it more challenging when you do a community walkthrough and the building looks good because you guys take good care of your buildings. And, and obviously this is on the eve of school starting, so everything's the best it's going to look until this next year. All the classrooms are neat, all the desks are tidy, the lockers don't have things hanging out of them. Everything's shiny, clean, and the building smells good tonight. But nonetheless, it looks good. And we had that honestly for all the challenges over at Memorial. I remember we still had some of that challenge too as people walk through saying,
right.
This doesn't look so bad. Well, that's a good thing, right? You want to take care of your buildings, but so this building isn't awful in terms of its bones, right? It's got decent sized classrooms, decent sized hallways, but you got lots of access issues here. You clearly, given the age of the building, you're gonna have envelope issues that could be very expensive to upgrade. Obviously clear all new systems through the building. So by the time we're done, I think we'll find the numbers a little bit surprising. Well, you won't, you do this, but in fact, half this committee won't because half this committee does what I do. So you guys will all know the numbers, but it'll be surprising to a lot of people how expensive it might be to upgrade this building.
Amazing, it's always what pushes the number way up, because if you can't occupy the building during construction, where do you put the kids, which is what we ran into in Manchester.
Yeah.
And it can increase the project by many millions of dollars.
And if we need to find a place to put the kids, and if that becomes modular classrooms, then that's not reimbursable, which is going to increase your cost as a district to the taxpayer by quite a bit because you won't be getting the money back on that. So it's one of the addition renovation scheme that we presented early on that helps to solve that because at least you build permanent space, you move kids into it, and then you can renovate. You can renovate parts of the building that a chunk at a time instead of trying to do it over 5 years of weekends and nights or whatever. You can do wings of the building, which is less expensive, but still challenging.
Anyone have any questions? Thoughts that you want to share?
Does the 2-story schools work? Like, I think that's what Manchester has, right? It's okay to bring elementary students up and downstairs.
But typically we do a lot of 2-story schools. We've even done, in some areas we've done 3-story elementary schools for K-5 or K-6. And actually we did a K-3 3-story school and it works just fine. Yeah, but I don't know, you can tell me, but I don't think you're having any issues with 2 stories.
No.
My kids really like it, the Manchester school.
So like rite of passage going to the upper floor.
It is, yeah. Then you're a big kid.
Does anyone online have any questions or thoughts they want to share?
I do have one question, maybe it's a little bit off from this, but there was consideration of another site. Is that still on the table? It is. Okay.
We're gonna have, that's an important, I was wondering about, what I could bring up, but I think that's an important piece of this, and it's important in Manchester too. I mean, if, you know, it goes back to the conversation about how much due diligence do we do, it goes back to the conversation about what are we focused on, and it goes back to the conversation, how efficiently can we do this? We're either bringing in or immediately getting rid of alternative sites is a very useful thing to do for just for the efficiency of the whole process and beginning to wrap your head around what we're really facing.
Without spending much of that 300K.
You're right, you don't have to. And the question is, do you or don't you?
Yeah, that was actually on my list of things to talk about tonight too, is that's one of the things we want to get started right away. I know Dawn Whittier's already begun some of that conversation. But if we can begin to assemble lists of potential sites to look at, we can pretty quickly rule out most of them just based on things like size, right? You can't fit your program on these buildings. We can look at wetlands, we can look at buildability. The other thing is, if they're not owned by the town and you have to, or the district, you have to acquire them. The town, you have to acquire them, and the acquisition costs are reimbursable. So that immediately, for most places, rules that out completely. It certainly did for the memorial project. We looked at some, I don't think we ended up looking at any non-town owned parcels. And we looked at a number of town owned parcels and we were able to reduce it down to the existing school site relatively fast, just without doing any testing. We didn't do any, as I recall, we didn't do any borings, anything. We were just simply able to, and that's typical. We were able to do a test fit study, look at access issues, maybe look at buildable issues and for wetlands, often, even if just going off the town wetlands maps, publicly available information, you can rule a site out because you realize there's not enough buildable area to fit what you're going to need for the project. So that's a process we need to start sooner rather than later and just move through that and get it out of the way. So we do have to put a report together to the MSBA that shows we did due diligence, that shows we looked at sites, and you'll need to vote eventually to eliminate sites from consideration.
Yeah, there's a site on Apple Street, which I'm sure will come up,
it has come up already, and we've already actually begun to think about that.
Yeah, and sites like that, another big hurdle, to Jim's point, would be traffic study, walkability and traffic study. That's going to be, that would be a huge hurdle for Apple Street.
Yeah, and I think utilities is important too, because Essex is not heavy on utilities in all locations.
What we will do, so the evaluation, it can't be, and it won't be random or ad hoc. We'll come up with a series of criteria to share with you that'll look at, all the things that the site needs to have. And then we'll be able to evaluate each site, one against the other using a set of criteria, which will include wetlands, utilities, traffic, access, size, geography, and there'll be a series of geometry, even, is it the right shape? Sometimes there's a site that's just a weird shape and you're just not going to be able to make anything happen on it. So it'll be the same exact process we did last time, and we'll just look at those criteria probably as a starting point, because the site criteria are pretty standard for
and you'll share that with us? You'll share that with us?
Yeah, we'll definitely, I would think we'd want to get that going at maybe at the next meeting.
Yeah, so that's a good segue into the schedule.
Yeah. This is based off of the same schedule that was included in our interview, and I reviewed it with, I don't know what it's been. Okay, sorry about that. It's a schedule that I've reviewed high level with Jim, and we're still reviewing schedule right now because I need a complete work plan from Jim and his team. Since Fawn's been out, I kind of have a high level work plan, and that then will get lumped into my project schedule. But we're currently looking for the preliminary design program phase to go through the next several months. Well, not several, but towards the end of the year. And we're looking for completing the preliminary design phase in December. So that's just getting it out there that we're working towards that with our project schedule with Jim and outlining meetings. And I do have an upcoming meeting slide towards the end where we're going to show kind of how we're going to get there to December with meeting cadence and what that looks like for community meetings as well. But I just also wanted to kind of just go over what is the preliminary design program. And there's key components that MSBA requires us to study, obviously, during this phase, during this module. That includes reviewing the educational plan. That's what Pam has been working on with us as Dora Whittier. And we're getting to that point where then we're going to be able to hand it to JCJ so they can start evaluating the program. That's also driven by Mike helping out with those visioning meetings that we're going to be lining through September and October timeframe. And so that kind of all starts with the educational plan, which leads then to visioning. And all of those things kind of then drive the space summary itself, which is how you get to square footage of a building size for the program to meet it. And then they'll be doing obviously what we talked about with the existing conditions review of this site, as well as if we're going to be talking about other sites if necessary. That will all start very soon. So that way we can determine whether or not there are other sites that we do want to evaluate further. And then from there, towards the end of the preliminary design program phase, that then leads to an evaluation of alternatives. That's where we start looking at all the different options, kind of like bubble diagrams, if you will. You know, the ag renos scenario, the code upgrade scenario. There could be multiple ag reno scenarios and obviously multiple new construction scenarios. And it could start off kind of big. And I think at Memorial, we had 15 or 16 to start off with. 19, was it? It's a lot. And so you kind of start evaluating all those different alternatives. And then from there, by the end of the preliminary design program things, we hope to have a smaller number of options to then proceed into the next phase, which is the preferred schematic report phase. And so that will starting in January of 2026. And from there, that's when we'll take those smaller group of options and then come down to one option. So just kind of wanted to outline, what does this preliminary design program phase mean? And so it's, again, very prescribed process that we have to follow with MSBA, but we think that we can get there and get to a December timeframe for submission to MSBA.
Christina, that PDP showed us like a 6-month block.
Yeah, I had originally had 6 months in there thinking that we were going to have the designer on board like sooner.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so it was 6 months and I've kind of condensed it down a little bit, but
already.
yeah. Yeah, so it's a smaller amount, but still end goal is December of this year.
And we make a public service request for less options than 19.
Yeah.
I think in Manchester, it kind of gave the made us all cross-eyed after a while. It's very hard to vet and sit through that many options. And this site seems a bit different site, less complex. So hopefully it's not going to be.
Yeah.
Did you receive any other sites from Brendan that they considered? So right now it's Apple Street in the 3 scenarios in the feasibility study.
Yeah, and and I know you touched on, or Tyler touched on, and everyone touched on the, considerations of Apple Street, but anytime I hear Apple Street means like farm or apple farm, and usually that means really bad soils.
Pesticides.
And pesticides, and I've had that happen before on a project, and it was not fun. It's a lot of money that kind of comes along with that scenario. So, I mean, those are all things that we're going to be studying. I think that we kind of just need to hit it on straight at our next meeting and kind of evaluate that with the group. So
2 things on that.
Okay, didn't they do an environmental study on them before the town bought it?
No, I don't think so. No.
Awesome.
No.
Price.
But
Who's want to do phase 1 on something?
I don't think we did, but I mean, I don't, not him.
I mean, there was some talk about it just being open space.
Yeah.
It wouldn't really matter.
So 2 things. I want to be sure that we give Apple Street completely vet that site, because I don't want anyone coming back and saying this was a foregone conclusion, you know what I mean? Like, I want to make sure we're very disciplined about approaching that so that it gets a fair shake. Second thing is, I do want to be mindful that the district and the 2 towns have to, I want to be strategic about when that town meeting is planned.
Okay.
So that November 2026 makes me a little sweaty. So let's talk about that.
okay, that's fine.
Those are 2 things I just.
This is, me kind of in a vacuum coming on board, putting together a schedule. Things can shift, obviously. This is kind of like the bookend was thinking that you regularly have town meeting in November timeframe. And so that was kind of just the goal bookend.
Yeah, and I know you're not committing to anything here. I just want to make sure
Yeah,
that we're being
understood.
when we chime in.
Understood.
Yeah, and two things. One, we'll seriously vet every site.
Yeah.
So you know, we've been joking a little bit. Maybe we're a little too familiar. I don't want anybody to get the wrong impression.
Yeah.
Everything, every site, every option will be seriously vetted in a rigorous manner. And secondly, I fully agree on the number of options. We've already had some conversation around that. I think there's less here. The great reconfiguration complicates it a little bit because we'll have to take that into account, but I think we can keep the number lesser. And I think by the time we get into what's moving forward to the next phase, it's typical for us to see 3 to 4 options move forward, not more than that to be studied. So you've got to do the base renovation of this building. We need one reno addition, one new construction, and maybe there'll be a second reno addition or a second new construction option. But typically it's about the right number to move forward that you can then focus on, really consider. So we'll work with you to try to keep that number to what makes sense. And what are true differences, right? If we show you options that are only slightly different, that's not really an option. What we want to do is look at options that have significant differences that you can measure and look at and make decisions about.
Can I ask a question? When we come up with the matrix to rule in and out the different options, is it acceptable to MSBA to include regional agreement amendment as a consideration for the viability of an option, or does it have to be strictly facilities oriented?
It's your criteria.
I think it can be a criteria.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of in the mode of regulatory, not much different, I would think, than regulatory criteria.
Well, you can use anything you want. They don't tell you what.
No.
They don't tell you what your criteria.
Yeah. I mean, you could prioritize certain criteria above others, obviously, as well.
Weight them, yeah.
I would say, yes, we should include that as a criteria for sure.
Because I think it's a valid, it's a true criteria, because that adds another layer of complexity that may impact the viability of the project actually moving forward, and they would like to see the project moving forward. So I think you have to take that into account,
Because it could absolutely derail
Oh, yeah.
an option that included an amendment to the regional agreement.
And I think that would have to be a consideration to Andy's point about timing of meetings, whether you do. If we were to come up with an option that required taking back the votes in one session, you do one at one town meeting and then come back in a second. So yeah, it is a consideration in planning and feasibility. Absolutely.
Is that something that's been discussed at school committee?
No, and I think that's where, as we're starting to do the timelining, that they would have to initiate the amendment process for the regional agreement. So there'll have to be a vote from school committee to move forward with it. And I guess it would make sense because the two options would be great, would also have a great reconfiguration. So the regional agreement doesn't allow us to the autonomy to move students K4 across the town lines. Like we can't require Manchester students to attend school in Essex or Essex students to attend school in Manchester from K4 unless they are receiving services and we have a district program. So we would need we need to go through that process for either of those options. Just a consideration. Can I ask one other question? And it's related, but now to the reconfiguration. The plot on Apple Street, when I get asked about it, it's if I'm looking at a Google map, it's adjacent to the transfer station.
Yeah.
It's just that patch of land, the cleared land.
Correct.
Yeah, that's a large lot of cleared land,
Right.
which they've been haying for
Yeah, it's a big
as
deal.
long as I've lived here, 20 years.
And there's
I don't think I've
an
ever seen a crop.
There's an L shape at the north edge that runs along the access road that goes down to the stream, although it won't be very usable because of the wetlands offset.
Just wanted to make sure I was like.
Yeah, I mean, it's a river, so you're gonna have
Yeah.
rivers act.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a bridge in each side, and one of the questions, yeah. We definitely need to talk about specific criteria for Apple Street, this is sort of unique.
Yeah.
The transfer station, it's a dump?
It's a dump, well, I mean, it's transfer station, you
I
have
don't
to be a
mean
dump,
it-
it was a dump, it's a cap dump. It's a cap dump
okay.
and then transfer station. But anyway, there's some unique issues there that aren't just the standard criteria that we really need to talk about, and there are other ones.
I don't mean to open the.
Yeah, I'm trying to refrain.
I was just want to make sure that when if anybody asked me about it, I was pointing them in the right direction.
Yeah.
What is it, 10 acres?
9, I thought.
9?
Yeah, but remember there was also the bridge portion of that. There was supposed to be, that was supposed to be used for the temporary bridge while they fixed the other bridge. And so I think that that's kind of still out there. We have to address that issue as well.
So there's a bridge to the transfer station, it's got a usable life that's coming to its end.
Oh, you mean, yeah,
That's
temporary.
Yeah.
That could be good news, widen the bridge.
And the other bridge on Apple Street may be getting near the end of its useful life as well.
Yeah, I think there's a,
Fees or something?
yeah, I believe it's buses on Apple Street. They're not allowed to go all the way through. Yeah, so, so I assume, anyway, we're getting into, yeah. Getting into the work that
That should
it's
be
gonna
its
do
own,
for us.
that should be its own meeting.
Our next meeting, we'll probably talk about it, so
Okay.
be
Yeah.
prepared.
I just sent a message to Brendan asking him to just confirm the sites and, or if we should get the criteria, get a list of town-owned sites and run it against that.
He sent me an email calling out specifically Apple Street and said that there was no other properties
Yeah,
in town.
What about Centennial? I mean, why couldn't you have to look at Centennial Grove or the ball fields at Town Hall? Just to roll them out.
you would have to want to donate them to us for use, right? They would have to want to lease them to.
Yeah, I mean-
Leaving town, they put
Yeah.
town hall.
So unless the town offers it, we can't.
Floodplain.
Yeah. Okay, so,
Purchase it, you just, you have to. Yeah.
so we're in it's an interesting predicament because as the district, we don't own the land. So the town would have to want to offer that land to us to develop for this.
Because it's not district owned land, it's town owned land. The district doesn't control it.
Well, you can transfer it, right?
Yeah, so I'm thinking like something like behind, like if you want, if we thought it was a great idea to put it near town hall, like.
Right, or Apple Street.
They're not gonna offer that to us. What they're offering the development is Apple Street.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Okay, we don't, it's not like every open. piece of-
Yeah, it's because it's not, the district is different from the town.
We know what's going on our agenda.
Okay, Apple Street is 11.5 acres. We're just nothing. Okay, so. We looked at the project timeline and we're gonna go on to the next slide, which is visioning.
Mike.
Thank you. So this is the fun, I think this is the fun part. This kind of helps drive, or does not just helps, drives the design of the building and the process that we go through. So, I approach this possibly a bit differently than you experienced when you went through the Manchester project, because I come from this, not just from a design perspective, but really from a teaching and learning child development perspective. So, you'll see that, as you know, in education, there's so many individual components and intersection points. And my goal through this process is to build on the work you already did in the Manchester project, look at your strategic planning and master planning work that you've already done, and really build from that point instead of like regurgitating things and starting all over again. But within that, looking at all those different components of education and the intersection points. So obviously, beginning with developing educational and community priorities, looking really at the different enrollment scenarios and developmentally how kids are impacted. Because even just walking around this building today, I see dramatic play and common corners and sensory pathways. And then I see lockers for the older kiddos in 4th and 5th grade. So there's different developmental needs and physical needs and how that impacts space and program. We'll dig into all of that. And then we take those larger concepts and outcomes from visioning sessions, and we really start to have more, I call them program workshops, where we vet out things from those larger visioning sessions, and in a smaller leadership group, really have conversations about, what does collaboration and breakout opportunities look like? what do sensory experiences really look like, not just as sensory paths, but literally as kids come into the cafeteria, which is often some of the most stressful moments of a kid's day, or in larger public spaces, how do community access those spaces, but then how do the littles access it versus fourth graders? So we'll talk about all those pieces. You can go to the next slide. Specifically, and I don't have to go into this into great detail, but when we look at the different enrollment studies that we have to explore, these are some of the topics that we will unpack in different conversations, either in a large visioning group or in a smaller leadership group. So looking specifically at different grade spans and how it developmentally aligns, how does it impact sense of belonging? How does it impact the number of transitions and buildings kids are going through as they matriculate through? Looking at instructional quality and program equity. So making sure that even if we combine different schools, that there is equity. Even if you leave the enrollments the way they are, is there equity among students at Manchester and Essex? And then obviously building use and family logistics, because again, this is not just about teachers and kids. Parents will feel very strongly, community members will have lots of opinions. So we'll look at all those financial impacts, traffic impacts, everything all wrapped into one. The goal is that you're not developing this educational plan in a vacuum. The way I process it, typically also because I worked at Dora Whittier for years, is my goal is to have outcomes from those sessions and you be able to literally take things that I write up in the report and you can copy and paste it into this document. And we'll get into this when we have a deeper kickoff meeting, hopefully soon, even though you're starting the school year and I know things are already crazy. But we can set up a Google document educational plan so that way you're all in the document at once. I'm in the document with you, giving you feedback. And again, you can just keep taking outcomes from these sessions and plugging them in. So it's not a check off the box for a vision session, but it's actually purposeful and intentional. So any questions about that?
I think we planned on having a kickoff meeting with Pam sometime either like later this week or early next week with you, Mike. So if we could get that going and figure out a time frame for that.
Yes.
I think it'll be really important with Pam and Michelle and even Kim to identify who needs to be part of those sessions.
Yep, and that's
So that
the
way we
conversation
can-
we'll have
Okay, great.
during that.
Yeah,
I sent, Jim, did you get, because I know there's been a lot
I
of
sent
stuff.
it over, yeah.
Oh, you did?
yeah.
So that plan, did
Yeah.
you send it?
Oh, did you? I didn't see.
I sent you yesterday, I sent you a.
Did you? Okay, I'll take a look at it.
I can, and I'll resend it tonight as well. So what we're talking about cryptically here is I wrote up a whole work plan specifically for the visioning and programming sessions. That would be good for you to look at ahead of time. And this is not, it's not something you should just accept, right? This is like a framework that we can work within. I want to have you guys be able to just reflect on it, to have a moment to reflect before we meet, and we'll go through it.
Yeah.
And then by the end of that meeting, we'll identify the sessions you're interested in. I'll modify them accordingly. We'll come up with dates for those. We'll come up with the different people that would be attending those sessions. And then we'll work through that as well through Google Forms and things like that. But yes, I would love to do it sooner rather than later because you guys are just going to get busier and busier. And
That's it.
I know how it goes. Like I'm stressed knowing that tomorrow's the first day of school. It's like you got to get home. It's a school night. So yeah.
Today, she's got the class to the principals tomorrow, next week
You
already.
got it. Okay, good. Perfect.
And I really like how you're framing the approach. I think did you do the visioning last time? It was very,
Yeah,
it was very
that's
broad,
what
a little bit frustrating. So I'm very excited. This is-
Okay. I'm glad you are. Me too.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
You good to go? Okay, so we just wanted to review with you, working groups. When we first met with you, we had sent out a questionnaire asking from the SBC what working groups you want to participate in, because there's going to be a lot of other meetings that need to be had with, specific conversations that would then lead to a recommendation to the full building committee regarding things like communications, planning, facilities assessment, the building design, interior, exterior. There's a lot of different working groups we can have. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is if you didn't fill out what working group you wanted to be a part of, let us know, because we'd like to make sure that you're involved.
So
I don't know what just happened.
Can you pop to the next screen too, so we can make sure that if we think we signed up for one, that it's there?
Yeah, we're just having technical.
Oh, sorry.
You guys still see it in both?
They can.
Yeah, we're looking at communication working group, educational planning and facilities assessment, proposed working groups.
Here's the next one for people online.
There we go.
Yeah.
I do think there's one.
I was thinking.
One or two responses that didn't have a name on it.
That's as much as I know.
Maybe somebody's missing.
Feel reaffirmed.
Yeah. Okay, so the proposed working groups, I'd like to actually throw those out to people and have them comment and then come back. I would love to have more people in the room to kind of hash this out. That would be great.
Yes, the reason why I wanted to talk about not only just making sure people signed up for it, but we wanted to schedule something soon with the communications working group, specifically because we've kind of outlined that we're going to have our first community meeting in October. And we have a date set for that meeting. And there's a lot that leads up to the first meeting, making sure that we're communicating, getting the word out, distribution, if it's print, if it's email, whatever. There's so many things that we could talk about just about community meeting number one. And so I wanted to get that scheduled as soon as possible. So if your name's not on here and you want to be part of the communications working group, please let us know. And we hope to send out a schedule doodle next week to get that in the books.
We'll certainly sit on whatever committee.
Okay.
So
we'll just
count on at least someone representing us. We also, in terms of the communications, we also have John Guilfoyle now, who didn't have him, who worked Memorial. So when appropriate, we can loop him in, and I know they'll help plan a whole press communications.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
So in terms of, just want to be sure that I'm putting it out there. You're going to be at the communication group meetings. I mean, the
Community meetings, yes, yes.
You.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I just think that you're good at it, so.
Well, thank you. I'll be there. That's the plan.
I know, okay.
We
but
share with
your name on it, I think.
We promised. But no, of course I'll be there, yes. I'll be, yeah. If you need me at the communications working group, certainly will be there. But yeah, the community meetings, absolutely.
And then that kind of feeds us into upcoming meetings. So if you reviewed this before today, like as far as the presentation that was in the link that Jacob sent out, there's a couple of changes to the schedule just because I finally was able to speak with Pam and Michelle to kind of go through this and make sure it aligned with the district's calendar and what was going on with school committee, because we have to also work around school committee first and third Thursdays of each or Tuesdays of each month. So this is following an every 2 week schedule right now, cadence for the building committee. Not saying that we're gonna need one every 2 weeks, but we'd like to get them out there in everyone's calendars. And if we do need to like skip one and be able to focus on other things to then come back to a building committee, we will. But this is our proposed meeting schedule for this fall through December. And that's through then finalizing the PDP report that will be then submitted to the MSBA. So you can see there's a couple of dates that are not quite Tuesdays just because there's either holidays or other events going on in the district. So let me know if this doesn't work for you. We would like to make sure, obviously, we have a quorum at each meeting. The beauty of these is that they're hybrid. So if you can't come in person, you can join online. Happy to try and accommodate people with whatever we can, but this is what works really good with the project team schedule as well as the district schedule. So we are planning on having our first community meeting on October 8th. That's where we'll talk through the phase of the PVP, what that means, the team, and kind of go through basically what we did tonight, which is next steps and what does that look like. So just, we'll make sure we get out meeting invites to everyone's calendars for these, and let me know if you have any questions.
And thank you, Jacob, for getting those out. Like, those are great.
Yeah, I don't have any of these out, or I have a couple of them out because we had them on a monthly basis, but I'll get them all out.
No, I appreciate those.
The October 28th meeting, if we do end up in person, the hoedown, right, is happening.
Yes, unless you want to do your way through the meeting.
I love that.
If it's not a problem for everyone, we can do it in person that night at the middle high school.
Okay.
Lisa has her hand raised.
Unless you think it better we do it at town hall.
Oh, I don't know.
Hey, Christina, this is Gordon. I have a question. Some are on Wednesday, some are on Tuesday, some are on, I don't know what days they are, but they vary by the day on a particular meeting. And is there a reason for that?
Yeah, that's what I just said, Gordon. It's because either a holiday occurs on a Tuesday or there's
Ah.
another event within the district going on. So that's why we had to pick kind of off days.
Okay, okay.
And Lisa had a comment as well.
Yeah, September 17th I see as a Wednesday, and that happens to be the third Wednesday in September. And both Ariel and I are members of the Essex Planning Board, and Teresa is our admin. And we are first and third Wednesdays of every month. So you're gonna make us pick. And I chair it, so I would be picking Planning Board, and Teresa would be picking this committee, and I'll be missing her if she's not here. So if you can avoid first and third Wednesdays, it'll be helpful.
Okay. Well, we'll just have to look at that and see what, maybe we'll go back to the drawing. Yeah, okay. So September 17th might change. We'll let everyone know if that does.
So why don't we send out this revised?
Yep.
Before Jacob sends the meeting invites. That'd be great.
These all start at 6.
6 o'clock.
Is 6 working for people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so we,
Yeah.
we like 6.
Guess it's right back, right? Right. It's all.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, as long as there's a hybrid option.
Yeah.
It works.
It makes it so much easier for everyone, so. Okay. And
Maybe
then,
we can talk about highlighting the ones that are easy, good candidates for online versus like ones like we should really strive to be in person because there's might be a meaty topic or a lot of
sure,
detail.
absolutely. Yeah, I'll follow up with you and Michelle, and we can figure out the 17th or the September dates, and we can finalize that.
It's a little bit of a minefield in September.
Yeah.
Oh, right, because you have all this back to school minutes. Yeah. Okay. Any other topics we hadn't anticipated? Anybody online have a question or concern?
One thing I wanted to just mention briefly was, I didn't realize that Essex is in the stretch code community, which may or may not have bearing on ultimately what we do, but it would be good. Not sure it's necessarily part of the PDP process, but it would be good to sort of grapple at some point early on what our strategy wants to be sustainably. What we want to reach for, what's practical for the project.
Yeah, that was a disappointing decision.
Yeah.
But
But sustainability drives costs, and there's a lot of sensitivity around costs.
Sure.
yeah, I don't know how much influence that decision would have on this building, because I think that decision was made for other reasons.
I mean, not taking stretch code.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just say generally that it drives costs up, and given this obviously stated anxiety around cost already.
Sure.
You do get in reimbursement points though from MSBA for it as well.
For them being a green.
Correct.
Yeah, that's too bad.
So there are ways to do, as Andy knows, life cycle cost analysis, review of systems, and comparing costs to how long it lasts, replacing it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of different ways to take a look at that.
Anything else? Jim, sorry, we're almost ready to go.
Sorry. You can hang out.
Any, is there any?
Sit here in the dark.
Yeah.
I know.
Is there anyone from the public on the line that might have a comment or questions? I don't know if I've seen everybody who's online.
No hands raised.
No hands raised?
No hands raised.
Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Gerard, yes.
Annie, yes.
Jim, yeah.
Pam, yes. Michelle, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
sorry. Henry.
Yes.
Henry said yes. Dave says yes.
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes, yes, yes.
Gordon,
Yes.
Ariel,
Yes.
Lisa. Did I get everybody?
Jen.
And Jen?
Yes.
And I'm sorry if I didn't, it's hard to see who's online when you only have like 4 showing, so. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Al.